Sam from US Sport Aircraft, and I've got some pretty big news for you guys today. The third class medical reform has been passed by the Senate, and it includes some pretty big changes to the third class medical. The legislation is already on the president's desk and awaiting his signature, and it may have already been signed by the time our video goes live. Once it's signed by the president, the FAA will have up to 1 year to issue rules and regulations to govern pilots flying under these reforms. Pilots will be able to fly under these provisions within a year of it being enacted, unless the FAA moves more quickly than that. We'll be learning a lot more in the next few months as the FAA develops these rules and regulations. The US Sport Aircraft team will be working hard to keep you in the know every step of the way. Flying under these reforms will be optional. If you wish to continue using your current medical certification system, you can. However, if you do wish to fly under these reforms, here's what it means for you. If you've held a valid FAA medical certificate within 10 years from the date the legislation is signed into law, you will never need to see an FAA Aviation Medical Examiner, or AME, again. If your regular or special issuance medical certificate lapsed more than 10 years before the date the legislation is enacted, you will need to get a medical certificate from an AME one time only. If you've never held an FAA medical certificate, you will need to go through the medical certification process only once as long as you meet the other requirements for the exemption. If you have a medical condition that requires a special issuance medical certificate, in most cases you will still have to go through the process only once. If your most recent medical certificate has been revoked, suspended, withdrawn, or denied, you will need to obtain a new medical certificate before you can operate under the new reforms. If you develop certain cardiac, neurological, or mental health conditions, you will need a one-time only special issuance for each condition. A big part of determining how this affects you depends on the recency of your expired medical certificate. The 10-year look back depends on two things: the date your medical certificate expired and the date the legislation is enacted. Note that this is not when the provisions take effect. If you meet the medical requirements to fly under the reforms, you will also need to take certain steps to do so. At least once every 4 years, you will need to have a thorough exam from a state licensed physician. The doctor will follow an FAA-developed checklist of items to examine and discuss with you and certify that he or she has done so and is not aware of any medical reason you shouldn't fly. You must then keep that signed checklist or form in your logbook, but you do not have to send it to the FAA unless you are specifically requested to do so. For more information on what the checklist will include, see the links in the description of this video. Also, every 2 years, you'll need to take a free online course covering aeromedical factors and keep proof of completion in your logbook. If you follow these steps, you can then fly an aircraft weighing up to 6,000 pounds gross takeoff weight with up to 6 seats and carrying up to 5 passengers. You can fly day or night, VFR or IFR, at speeds up to 250 knots and at altitudes up to 18,000 feet MSL. There are no limitations on horsepower, number of engines, or gear type. Pilots flying under the exemption cannot operate for compensation or hire. If you wish to fly outside of these limitations, such as flying an aircraft over 6,000 pounds or with more than 5 passengers, you will need to continue using the existing medical certification process. It's important to note that the rules regarding medications will not change. So if you are taking a medication that does not allow you to fly, this will not change that. Also, these reforms will not affect you if you still want to fly as a sport pilot. You can still fly light sport aircraft with a sport pilot certificate and a valid driver's license in lieu of having a medical. These changes are a really big deal. It's sure to open up the aviation market and revive some rusty pilots. Like I said, there are still many details that need to be worked out, so be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for all the latest news and updates. From your US Sport Aircraft team, I'm Sam. Take care.